in this video, I'm going to talk about exception filter. NestJS has already maintained built-in exception layer. Let's say if I will throw error, it will automatically cache the exception. Let's say that throw new, I can use HTTP exception. You can provide the message, something went wrong. Here you can provide the status code. I can get the status code from the HTTP status enum dot forbidden or whatever you want to say, that bad request. Let's do that. Now I'm gonna test this endpoint. I'm gonna send the request for the delete. Let's create a new record. I'm gonna send the request to delete record on the based on ID because it is returning the error message. You can see that something went wrong and the status code, which is 400. You can also use this exception throw new for NestJS provided couple of the exception. You can do that. Now I don't want to use this boilerplate code. So let's try to test that. Awesome. I got 403 and added forbidden. Nest support couple of the built-in exception. Let's say node found exception. I don't need to add the status code and the message. It will automatically handle that for me. Now I got the 404 and the node found. I'm going to open the exception filters. And here you will find a couple of the exceptions. You can use batch request, not implementation, internal server error exception. But the question is that if you would like to override this message, let's say you want to add some logging feature or the timestamp, how can you do that? So for that, we need exception filter. I'm going to create a new folder inside the common directory, which is filters, http exception.filter.ts file. So I need to import the class http exception filter. It is going to implement the exception filter. It's an interface. Now we need to override the method. There is a catch method. It is taking the HTTP exception as an argument. So I'm going to HTTP exception and it is going to use the argument host. So the second argument is argument host. I have imported that. So we did not implement this exception. Let's try to use this exception. You can also use exception for all route handler by using this one, use filters. I'm going to say that HTTP because it's an injectable class. HTTP exception filter. We also need to use this catch decorator. Here I'm going to say HTTP exception. Module cannot find. Okay, cool. We need to provide the correct path. Go to the common filters and HTTP exception filter. It has applied the exception filter for all these route handlers. Now you get the error. Aha. It is still loading. The request is not completed successfully. because we are not doing anything here. We are just returning the error message. You can see the error method not implemented. So it's time to implement this method. First of all, we need to get the context from the host dot. If you are using HTTP request, then you can use this method. If you are working with WebSocket, then you can use this method. If you are using RPC, then you can use this method. So we need to convert the context, switch context to HTTP. Now you will get the HTTP context. So interface with method to rewrite the HTTP arguments. Cool. So now it's time to get the request from the context object. Context.getRequest. So I'm gonna use the request from the Express package. We also need response. I got request, response, and the context. Now we need to return the response, or you can get the status code from the exception.getStatus. Response.json. You can return your status code. You can also provide status here, status.json. I'm going to provide status here. Here I need to provide status code. Cool. Let me rewrite this return response. I'm going to use this as a status. We need to return it. Because I got the error because I forgot to import the response. Make sure you have imported the request response from the Express package. So you can log the host object and the context. Let's say here I'm going to log the exception. I'm also going to log the host. Let's do it here. I'm going to send the request. Here is a problem. Response.status is not a function. It should be response. Now everything is good to go now. I got the status code 404. I've also added the timestamp. You can see that I've added the dates timestamp. I also added the path. So here you can see the host. This is the exception. You can see response in the exception and the status code, which is 404. You can also see the message in the exception object. I also logged the host. You can see this is the incoming message. You can get this request and the response. So you can also implement, if you don't want to add on controllers, you can also do it here by using this one. But I'm gonna use it here. to add on all route handlers. So in this way, you will add the exception filter.